This is the old Penelope Motel. It's an abandoned motel that is technically owned by the Roswell family, but they wouldn't tell you about it because it's so run down that it's basically a shame to Strangerville. This is Crybaby Crystal. She is my online GTA self and the manager of this motel. Yes, she's wanted in several worlds. That's why she's here in Strangerville. How did she get this job, you ask? Well, she spied on Teddy Roswell and found out that he was cooking the books, and poorly at that, and she offered to help him due to her many years in the criminal career. He agreed as long as she wouldn't tell anybody about their proposition. But little did Ted know, she was actually funneling a lot of the money from the motel straight into her own bank account. And did she feel bad about it? Absolutely not. This place was disgusting and in need of a lot of updates that the family refused to do. So why not keep their money? And can you blame her? I mean, look at this place. It's disgusting. There's garbage everywhere. There's crazy people roaming the streets and big cracks in the pavement. Even all the plants are dead. She even had some of the long-term tenants form a tenant revolt, which essentially did nothing because the only thing they got was monetary compensation and not even enough to upgrade their appliances. But nonetheless, she decided to become friends with the tenants, as it might be a good idea for her crime business later on. Peter here decided he wanted to become the chief of mischief, and Sheila is a kleptomaniac, and she's stealing stuff from the office right now, but we caught her and told her to put it back because we can't steal from our place of business. Despite all the downsides, the hotel does have a few amenities like this big giant bonfire and a tent that you can sleep outside in. Although I would probably avoid the pool if I were you, Sheila has no fear. Crybaby lived on the second floor next to Peter. He had a grill, so occasionally they did barbecues together. As Crybaby was preparing for her night of crime, she heard a knock on the door. It was Meredith Roswell, Ted's wife. She brought Crybaby a fruitcake and welcomed her to the business. After Meredith left, Crybaby tried her fruitcake. It was not good. The motel had a laundry room, and it was nice for Crybaby to be able to get the blood out of her clothes. I mean, it's not blood, it's just rust, right? She's a mechanic, you guys. At least that's what she tells people. The motel was small, but at least it came with a second mattress and free cable. Sorry, I had to leave that in. I told her to make coffee, and she did that instead. She's kinda gross, and I love that about her. After she had her morning coffee, she decided it was time to do a workout, but not just any old workout, an evil workout, which, like, honestly, same. She decided to go for a little run on the treadmill because some of the other equipment was being used, and we only had 3 pieces of equipment in this tiny little box of a gym. She had a nice chat with Ted Roswell and was able to introduce herself to one of the other neighbors, who had just moved here from Evergreen Harbor. Supposedly they were living in some kind of container housing. I don't really know. Doesn't seem legal to me, but then again, neither does this motel. After her run, she decided to take a mud bath. But little did she know that this would cause some trouble later on. The rats in the walls woke Crybaby up bright and early the next morning. That and the sound of rushing water coming from her bathroom. The next morning, Crybaby called the landlord as soon as she was able to, and had him set a mousetrap and then fix all the pipes. Because it had broken the shower when she took a mud bath. It had clogged up all the drains and backed up everything into her apartment, which is disgusting. While Ted was working in her apartment, she decided to go down and start doing her paperwork. You know, fudging the numbers a little bit here and there just to make ends meet. And in the meantime, she checked in an old friend. He was a handyman now, and not a handyman, a repairman. So she introduced him to Ted, who gave him a job. Ted told Crybaby that there was some weird-looking mold in her sink and that she should clean her apartment because it could get worse and some strange things could start happening to you. But she had to work that night, so she went to sleep and then got herself some lunch and got ready for work. And then she heard fire alarms coming from next door. The neighbor had caught their barbecue on fire and didn't know how to put it out. Everyone rushed outside, and Crybaby called the fire department. Let's just say she's pretty calm because she has experience in house fires. Or car fires, but cars don't exist in the sim. The fire department arrived and put out the fire, saving the neighbors who were trapped in the home. The firefighters yelled at Crybaby for setting the barbecue on fire and then ran away. It felt like the building was cursed, and maybe it's because this randomly cursed book showed up and we just stomped on it. Would that make it better or would it make it worse? We'll find out later. After a long night of crime, Crybaby returned home, trying to get a good night's sleep, but unable to due to a fire set by the Dust Bunny. The next morning, she was called into a meeting with both Ted and Meredith Roswell. They told her that she needed to clean her apartment immediately, or she would be evicted within the next few days. This made her very angry, but she listened and decided to start taking out her trash at least. Crybaby didn't like going out to the dumpsters because there were occasionally celebrities rooting around in there. We don't know why they were doing that. He's a celebrity. He should have some more class than diving in a dumpster. Our neighbor got stuck planting this thing for like 30 minutes in real time, so I had to fix her. While Crybaby was doing some work for Ted, she noticed how well Ted and John were getting along. Almost a little too well. You heard them talk about Meredith for a few times, and then Ted started laughing evilly, but that wouldn't be anything suspicious. Crybaby's sink had broke again, and the mold seemed to start spreading out of the sink. The pool also had an algae outbreak, and I don't think anybody started swimming in that. Nobody cleaned it either. Unable to sleep in her apartment because of the constant rats and the sound of running water, Crybaby slept in the tent by the dumpster. Crybaby returned to her apartment to discover that mold piles have started spreading to her living room. I literally played for 2 weeks and the mold never showed up, so I had to get these out of debug. Just sidebar. But Crybaby had nowhere else to go. She was wanted in every other world and 6am, but she was so tired from sleeping out in the tent and not being able to sleep because of the passing cars that she decided to clean her whole apartment first thing in the morning. But would it be too late? Overnight, the fungus had grown even more, and it seemed to be affecting Crybaby quite a bit. She stunk, and her skin itched like crazy. Nevertheless, she made herself breakfast, deciding today would be the day she cleaned her whole apartment. Evilly, that is. Would she set the piles of mold on fire? Probably not. There's already been enough fires in this motel. We didn't need another one. As she ate her breakfast, she started to cough and sneeze, and really start to not feel good. Was this the mold getting to her, finally? Crybaby started cleaning when all of a sudden her skin started itching and sprouting mushrooms. She had finally succumbed to the mold. Grim finally appeared as she took her last breath and fell to the floor. Poor Crybaby. She learned her lesson though. She would never ever spread the mold or try to get mold ever again. Grim reaped Crybaby and gave her an urn. Peter Burns found her and went to deploy one of the mold be gone bombs because the second he entered this apartment he started feeling sick. He thought he had done it. The mold would never spread to any other apartment. It's not like somehow Crybaby could stay in her apartment and make it even dirtier and more disgusting. Crybaby would never go to other people's apartments and break in. Like, she would never do that. She's better than that. She's not a criminal anymore. She's just a ghost, right? She definitely doesn't think that her downstairs neighbor ratted her out to the police all those years ago. She does stay and snoop around for a little while, finding some pretty horrific things about her neighbor that she would definitely use to blackmail them for money later. But for now, she wanted to go find out what was up with Ted and John. They were being quite loud in the apartment next door. They wouldn't be woohooing in the closet, would they?